was a good wife. And then was judged and shamed by my country.
I say before all of you, I spoke the truth.
Jodie, my first question's for you. What was it like filming sort of the same scene, the rape scene? It's meant to be the same scene, right? And obviously you have to approach that from two different perspectives. What was that experience like for you? How did you go about doing that?
It was a really interesting experience. I think when you take into account that in both scenes, the dialogue is the exact same. So the only shift is performance and emotion. And it's very, very, very subtle. And I know that was always what our intention was, that it needed to be such a subtle shift. So, I mean, as an actress, to get to kind of play around like that was extremely satisfying. It was also a little bit kind of discombobulating when you're wanting to portray your own character's truth and instincts, and then you have to step away from that and play into the perspective of the other two characters. But a way in which we kind of always kept a handle on that was like before each take, me and Ridley would have a chat and we'd just kind of reiterate what it was that we are wanting from this perspective, so that we were always kind of on the same page and knowing what we were wanting.
When you're watching it, Adam had to appear, Legree had to feel that he may have been encouraged. Whichever version it was, you had to feel that he was feeling it was okay to go ahead.
That was going to be my question to you next, was that nuance, Jodie, that you've just mentioned. I was curious to see if that was purposeful, in that he could have misinterpreted her protestations. Because I feel like we talk about consent a lot nowadays in such a kind of real way, and that spoke to me quite well. So Ridley, I guess for you, when you approached telling this story, did you know from the outset that was the way you wanted to portray that moment?
This rehearsal for this is forensic. We sit in a room with Jodie and Adam and I, and that's it. We literally talk through it, exactly the target of what we're going to do. There's no one there listening, and so it's a very private discussion. Then beyond that, then I have to step back, and it's in the hands of Jodie and Adam, and my 4 cameras who are quietly in the corners, trying not to be obtrusive. So I try to put and capture. I don't like repetition, particularly when it's violent or incredibly dramatic. That's why I evolved the method of multi-cameras, because it saves the actor. And when you get it, you suddenly get it, and you've got it on 4 cameras as opposed to 1. That's fantastic.
Right. And then I guess to just ask one more of both of you, Jodie first, even though the rape is quite, the kind of pivotal moment, really the ending for her, I felt, was more of her evolution. Did you see those two things as relating that way? What was that like?
Absolutely. It's an evolution. I think for me, what that moment is like she has experienced this awful thing, but she is defined by it, and it isn't going to stop her. And, there's such a moment when she comes away from that duel and she's on horseback. And I remember, Ridley, when we were doing that scene and the kind of dialogue that we were having, when she realizes that this duel, this excuse for a battle, was never actually about her. It was never about being concerned for her and her welfare and getting her justice. It was about these two guys, fighting it out for themselves. And then you see her, with her child, and she's content, and she, to see her in that moment after, I thought was really, really beautiful.
Ridley, was that your intention also, kind of going into the way that you structured the film?
Well, when we wrote it, everyone had forgotten about, I said there would be a kid. And they went, oh, right. I said, what about the child? And whose child is it? The child doesn't matter. The point is she has the child that she loves. That is the whole point of that moment. And she would never question whose child it might be.
Right, because it's hers.
Yes.
Yeah, because of course we could end on Jodie going out at the end, they're walking towards behind Matt, as it were, being already not being paid attention to, and yet we see where she's coming from. And I always felt it needed that postscript on the end to say, there's a child.